this is an event where we organize this just to express our gratitude to our clients, to our industry supporters. As a first generation entrepreneur, um, we only learn from the ecosystem, and I am truly blessed to have the kind of support that I've received from the ecosystem. I mean, from where we started to where we are today. So, I mean, how do I say thank you to everybody, right? So that's why we try to organize this event so that we can meet each other, we can share some insights, right? And then that's about it. So I'm going to, like, as a convention, I have a small presentation which talks about some of the insights. So I begin with that. Uh, while we are into transaction advisory, investment banking, valuations, and talent management, one of the things that is very close to my heart is valuation. And we keep hearing about numbers, right? Of course, all of you are stalwarts in the business yourselves. But what we've seen is that 80% of the valuations are subjective, comes from the qualitative factors. It's only 20% number crunching. So over the last few years, some of the insights that we've gathered, I'm going to quickly talk about that, right? So we see there are 6 tenets that drives business value that we've seen. So we start with product, we talk about people, process, performance, planet, and plans, right? So I'm quickly going to run through that, right? So when we talk about product, of course, everybody knows it. It's the product that drives the business. When we say product, it's both product as well as service. So how do businesses compete or drive greater value through their products? So of course, we deal with large clients, we deal with startups that were born yesterday, we deal with uh, Fortune 500 companies, NSE constituents, right? So especially, what about small companies, mid-sized companies? How do they create value? So one of the things that we've noticed is the companies which drive maximum values are the ones who have created a differentiation in the competitive markets, right? I mean, think of FMCG market as an example. Very competitive, razor-thin margins. But we've seen examples of companies like Patanjali who've created a differentiator, positioned themselves in a different manner, and created value. Second is monitor emerging trends. Now, it's a very fast-paced business environment. Things are changing at amazing pace, right? So how do you keep pace with the trends, with the changing trends? So Zara, again, a classic example, because they have used AI, they have used amazing supply chain models to keep track of the emerging trends. In fact, they're designed to store, right? From the time they identify a design to the time they get the product to the store, the timelines is 1/5 of the industry average, right? And that's the way they've been able to create value over time. Third is investing in R&D. Now, how many of you know about this company called Agnikul, right? So Abhishek, I think you're one of the investors, yes? So it's an Indian-based startup, and they are working in space technology. And I'm sure Abhishek, being an investor in Agricul, can speak more about it. But they are doing amazing stuff around space tech, and they're trying to make the space more affordable for the world at large, right? So how do you invest in R&D is again a great driver for value. Second tenet is, again, that we can go on and on. I'm just picking some small examples. Second is people. Now, when we say people, we talk about both customers as well as employers, right? And employees. So when you say customer experience, again, we've seen the whole startup ecosystem. They've been all focusing on customer loyalties. Some of them have been able to build great businesses around it, and the others have actually destroyed their businesses as well, because they focused on customer, but at the same time, they did not look at the financials, right? So Swiggy, for example, has been focusing on delivery. So again, we know about Swiggy and Zomato, how they compete in a competitive environment, and how they've been able to create value by focusing on the customers themselves. Second, again, so this is a very classic example from Volkswagen, right? Especially in the global world, automobile companies have done cutthroat advertisements. Now, what Volkswagen did is, in order to gain, now how many of us actually look at advertisement when it comes on TV? We're not even watching television these days, right? So what Volkswagen did is, they used to come up with a commercial ad. Now, in that commercial ad, there used to be a QR code. You scan the QR code, and there's a car racing game going on. And you actually play the game live, and there are actually competitors, everyone who's watched that ad at that point, and everyone who scanned the code at that point is playing the game together, right? So imagine what a beautiful way of driving customer engagement through advertisements on television, which usually is just one-way communication. Similarly, how do you build a great employer brand? Now, I mean, So for example, Amazon, right? What it did is it trained its workforce to actually find jobs outside of the company. You know, Amazon, if you check out on YouTube and various other places, Amazon has been actually a controversial employer, right? In terms of what kind of work-life balance it has had, what kind of pressure people go through, and so on. Now, one of the things it did to sort of improve its employer brand is it said that, okay, you're working in XYZ role in our company, but let's say you want to do something else, right? So Amazon actually financed 95% of the fees prepaid and said, go and take up a job somewhere else, find a job somewhere else. So it has an amazing outplacement program as well for people who do not want to work in Amazon. Reverse mentoring is a technique, I'm sure many of you are aware of it. So legacy businesses who've got long-standing employees, they bring in newer people, right? They allow the newer people to actually train the older colleagues, and there's an amazing synergy that comes around it. Oh, so this shouldn't come, right? I mean, everything that we see around in the event, right? That's what our team has done, the team at Omnifin. May I have a small but quick round of applause for the team for the amazing work that they have done. Uh, and they continue to do so. We have an amazing environment at Omnifin. I don't brag, Vikash. Chalo. The next is performance. Here we talk about numbers. So again, most of us are having a finance background, so I don't need to talk much about it. But just to quickly talk about revenues, right? Diversify revenue streams, we know about it. Transition to subscription model. Now, transition to subscription model and shift to dynamic pricing are two important trends that are coming up in the revenue space for most businesses. I mean, how many times have we heard this from a customer कि आपने इसको तो इतने में बेचा, मुझे दूसरे प्राइस पे क्यों बेच रहे हो? But at the same time, all of us have flown on airlines जहाँ पे you are sitting beside the person who's bought a ticket 3 times cheaper than you, right? So dynamic pricing is the order of the day. Subscription models are the order of the day. We all know about cross-selling and upselling. Uh, Again, I'm a fan of this company, not because of its on-time performance, but because of its cost model, right? There's this full case study that we have internally at Omnifin around how Indigo has been able to create an amazing cost model. I can actually go on and on about it. But just to give you a very interesting number, they reduced their operating cost to 3.57 rupees per kilometer per passenger in 2023, right? That's their cost model. Next, cash flow management. Again, I saw a very interesting case where we saw that Walmart actually deployed drones in their large warehouses for cataloging process, right? So just imagine they have these huge warehouses and the stocks are all stacked up. Now all of us during our articleship period, during our audit processes have done stock audit where we would actually either go up the stacks or bring down all the products, catalog and bring it and put it back up, right? So what Walmart has done is it has got drones, and these drones are all programmed and they can do your whole cataloging. So reduce the cataloging process or inventory count process from 30 days to 1 day. Okay. Cost of capital, again, this is our subject as valuation professionals, finance professionals. So reduce debt dependence, right? Managing better risk. So some studies say that companies which manage risk better have 82% more patronage from their investors in terms of value. Shareholders, of course, these are fairly known factors. Right? When we talk about process, we also talk about a little bit of technology here. That's what is embedded here. So for example, streamlining operations. Imagine, I mean, we are all traveling through Uber. Now Uber has got AI-based facial recognition technology. We can all imagine, sorry, there's a typo error there. We can all imagine now that, I mean, with all DigiYatra and everything, it's come to our mobile phones, but Uber has been using that for a pretty long time. Improving quality. Now, we don't use, how many of you eat chips these days? Wafers, chips? Yeah? At least our kids still do that. So what PepsiCo did is, it has got this machine learning and artificial intelligence technology where they weigh the potato before peeling and after peeling, right? So you know that it has not been over peeled or under peeled based on their standards. And because if it's over peeled, it's getting rid of some part of the potato and there's a cost attached to it, right? Similarly, they have this sound technology based on which when you crack that chips, right, what kind of sound it makes, is it the right sound? That is the level to which PepsiCo has gone in order to ensure that they are maintaining appropriate quality of the products that they are selling. And Tesla again, so some time ago, what hackers in the US did is, because Teslas are all electronic cars, and we've seen this in sci-fi movies, right, that somebody is programming the cars and bringing it to a halt. It actually happened in the US. Okay, so what Tesla did is it said that it arranged competitions for hackers and gave them awards up to $10,000 who've been able to identify snags in the product so that there is no such risk coming forward. Right? So imagine when companies are able to do things like these, would they not create a lot of value for the others? Now, quickly, towards the end, when we talk about plans and planet, plans is the future. So everything that we do around the perception, and planet is the sustainability side of it. So companies like, such as ITC I'm sure everyone is now bound to have to do it, but they're not only managing the practices from a sustainability perspective, but also tracking them. And we have some stalwarts from the audit field here who can probably share more insights around what companies are doing around sustainability and reporting those sustainability measures. And then of course plans. So any valuation is driven by the perception, right? So how do you create your perception? So what kind of innovation you are doing? So doing these things is not enough, right? You need to actually communicate them as well. So while you are doing all of these practices that we just spoke about, does the market know about it? Do your stakeholders know about it, right? So one of our clients, very large conglomerate from South India, said that because we are doing all of these things, but our share prices are not increasing. I said, sir, how will they increase if you don't communicate it? If you're not communicated, the share price is going to increase in the long run for sure, because that's going to show in your results. But if you want short-term benefits as well, at least communicate that, right? Now, those are things that create value. Finally, just a small insight around what destroys value. What are some of the things? Because a lot of our clients come and say, because we are generating amazing profits, we are generating amazing growth, but why are you giving me a low value, right? Now, see, this is, and this is especially applicable to small businesses, private businesses around us. If I am running Omnifin today and I do not have a succession plan, right? What happens to Omnifin beyond me or beyond my term, right? We all saw this discussion when even Zomato came up with an IPO, right? A lot of people said that Zomato's IPO price or the valuation is driven by Dipender Goyal's presence. Now, come on, that won't happen beyond a certain point. When you are a large organization, the valuation is not driven by that individual himself. It's driven by, it's the team which is generating that value. Dipender Goyal can go away for 3 months and the business will still run the way it is. But is it the same for our own businesses? For all of the mid-sized businesses that we all have, right? So if you don't have succession planning, you will not get a good multiple, right? Negative contribution. So you're focusing on people, you're focusing on planet, you're focusing on product, but again, you're not looking at the profit margins. Valuations will not come in. Delegation, similar to succession planning, right? Prioritizing short-term profits over long-term value creation, and poor ethics and governance. A lot of our companies are doing amazing when it comes to managing their financial statements. But when we talk to their business models, there's a lack of ethics in it. There's a lack of governance in it. Some of the companies have told us upfront, कि governance वगैरह हम लोग के business में समझ नहीं आता है, right? So you won't get valuation then. So I think that's my 2 cents on what drives business value. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming here, and I'll hand over to Preeti and Avril to take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vikash. That was indeed a very insightful presentation focusing on the drivers of key business value. So let's commence with our first panel now. Going forward, I would request Shri Suresh Goyal ji to please come on stage to felicitate our first panel. Okay. Shri Suresh Goyal ji, please come on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming sir on stage.
Now, for our first panelist with us today, please put your hands together as we invite Mr. Shiv Siddhant Kaul. Mr. Kaul is the Managing Director of Nikko Engineering Services Limited. He also serves as the Honorary Consul General of the Republic of Korea in Kolkata and is a past president of the Indian Chambers of Commerce and a former chair of CII, the Eastern Region. He has an MSc in Financial Engineering from Princeton, and his academic research has been published in the Journal of Alternative Investments. I now take the pleasure of inviting Ms. Seema Manot on stage. Kindly join me in welcoming her. Ms. Seema Manot is a partner with BSR & Co. LLP. She is a chartered accountant with over 20 years of experience in audit and assurance services. Seema ma'am brings with her significant experience in auditing large numbers of clients in India and overseas. Her experience includes working in India, Nepal, and the United States of America. She has secured an All India Rank 8 in her CA final exams and an All India Rank 7 in her CS final exams. I now welcome Mr. Abhishek Rungta on stage. Mr. Rungta is the founder and CEO of IndusNet Technologies, which has a team of 1,000 plus full-time professionals supporting 500 plus active clients across insurance, financial services, healthcare, government media, and the real estate sector in 5 continents. He is a distinguished entrepreneur, digital strategy consultant, software architect, and an angel investor, renowned for his significant contributions to technology and startup ecosystems. And finally, it is time to welcome our final panelist for our first discussion of the day. Please join me in inviting Mr. Anjani Jajodia to the stage. Mr. Jajodia is a chartered accountant by profession who heads finance for RSPL's Hygiene Care Division. With over 12 years of experience, Mr. Jajodia has developed expertise in business growth, analytics, strategic planning, and financial management. Prior to joining RSPL, he has held significant roles in prominent organizations including EY, Zomato Limited, and ITC Limited.
Now that we have our dynamic panel with us on stage, let's welcome our moderator for the first panel to drive the conversation and guide us in the engaging exchange of ideas. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sumeet Arora on stage. Mr. Arora is a co-founder of Novo Leaders, an organization pioneering holistic family development initiatives. With over 30 years of experience, Mr. Arora is a seasoned professional and has trained and coached over 50,000 professionals for more than 100 organizations in areas such as leadership, people management, behavioral skills, work management. He has also authored books and curriculum for school and college students. We welcome you on stage, sir. With that, we would now hand over the proceedings to Sir, Sumeet sir. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, everybody was expecting me to sit in the middle since beginning. But being on the side really helps. It's just one side movement that I can have. Yeah. I came here to Calcutta from Pune yesterday morning, and I was staying in a hotel in Sector 5. Checked the breakfast and the timing and really did not like it. So I ordered online something which is my favorite, Greek yogurt, some nuts, and some other stuff, my favorite coffee. It took me around 10-15 minutes to get it delivered. Had a cost along with it, 100 rupees dene pade the usko service ka. But it gave me a lot of satisfaction. It was my choice of breakfast. Yeah, starting day with my own control, happiness. And I was satisfied with the timing, the delivery, etc., etc. And that was real value for me. Notably, yes, every value comes with a cost, and we are here discussing that. And who else would I connect to immediately on this panel is Mr. Anjani, because his organization talks about value in its introduction at least 4 to 5 times. Yeah. And I thought, let me begin with him to ask him what are the initiatives or what value does his organization bring in when it really emphasizes on creating value for its stakeholders. So,
Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and a very good morning to everybody. As you rightly said, Sumit, that today, as an individual, we prefer to have control and pay a premium or a value to it. However, there's a cost attached to it, right? So my mentor used to always say that create only that much amount of value for which people are willing to pay a premium. Right?
wow, that's interesting.
I have broadly worked with two recent organizations which were very contemporary and focused on creating value. My current organization, RSPL, is the core motto is around creating value, both in terms of product quality, as well as optimizing the premium which we want to charge. Right? So my chairman, Mr. Murlidhar ji, always says, "धंधे में उतने ही पैसे मांगो, जितना आप दे रहे हो. Don't try to overcharge a premium just to increase your top line or optimize your bottom line." Right? All of our products today are customer value centric. However, we are trying to create habit formation or change habits for the mass segment, and hence we believe in operating in the mass society of India. Let me take you to the journey in Zomato, something which you really experienced in the morning today. The 15-minute delivery which you might have referred. Not sure which platform did you use for that, but I have first-hand experience of creating that platform. I was heading business for Zomato everyday business. And I really understand what is a fun to create value, bring convenience to the customer, and the original artificial psychological barrier which we think that customers do not want to pay for delivery and they don't want to pay premium for the delivery or whatever ancillary charges these startups are charging to keep them surviving. I believe those are really not true. So long you can give convenience to somebody's life, they are more than willing to pay for it. Of course, the target audience has to be very different. If you try to sell 15-minute delivery in Kanpur, the lifestyle is very different and they're not very keen about it. But in Mumbai, I think people will be more than happy to pay up to 200 to get this. Right? So it's about value creation and how do you leverage or layer technology to keep the cost optimized for the same value.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. And what a wonderful quote. Business में उतना ही पैसा मांगो जितना आप value add कर रहे हो. I work with working professionals और वो उल्टा बोलते हैं इतने में इतना ही मिलेगा. And see what a different mindset this is. Yeah, an entrepreneur says पैसा उतना ही मांगो जितना आप really value add कर रहे हो. So nice. And moving on from Anjani to Seema, with your lot of years of experience in auditing and meeting various companies, are there certain strategies? Let's get to strategic thoughts immediately. Are there certain strategies for adding value in innovation, value creation, etc., which you come across?
Good morning to you all, and being my auditor for most of my life, and that also from a large firm, I can first share my personal experience. You know, when you go to a new client and say कि भाई balance sheet है, audit report है, सारा चीज prescribed है, तो आप इतना fees क्यों लेते हो? So you know, ये तो कोई और X में कर देते हैं, आप 5x 5x मांग रहे हो. So you know, this is where we keep thinking that yes, you know, we have a service which is largely driven by regulator. And how or why will somebody pay one person X, somebody pay somebody 5X? What is it that we are doing for the client or we are doing for a customer if it is a product or a service? You know, again, being more accountant, let me try to explain or let me try to put my thoughts in measurable terms. So for me, you know, most organizations now look at selling customer experiences instead of products. they look at something called customer satisfaction or customer delight. And if I were to put it to numbers, that would be the gap between what is the price of the product which is charged by the organization and what is the customer willing to pay. So that gap is the customer delight. If you have satisfaction, as he said, he is ready to pay more. If you think that, so, and that is the margin which the company is going to earn is between their cost and the price of the product that they can place on, the price of the service. Looking at organizations, I think increasingly, organizations are first concentrating on effective management. Just as Vikas said that, there is no personal, you have to be process oriented. More professional management, which is looking at business gains rather than personal gains. That is where, they are being able to assess what their business risks are, try to be agile towards those risks, assess what is happening in the external environment, customer needs and preferences. You look at the paint companies now. All of us, we knew paint companies as paint products. But most of them are now offering home solutions. So, you need to have a set of people who are being able to identify these needs. Second, I think, again, as auditors, when we look at all measurable, where we look at risk assessment, at how strong is the risk assessment, how fast will the management or the people respond to that risk. And all of this come at the bedrock of the right kind of information at the right time. So all the processes, which lead to the right information coming at the right time is very, very, important in today's day and time.
Wow, that's interesting. Right information at the right time and doing the risk assessment and what the management is doing about it. You would like to add something to it on your lines of business in engineering or in IT on the strategies for value creation?
So for creation of value, it's very simple, but it's never easy to do, right? So the idea is value is something which you can get from the market in two ways. You can just go out and talk to everyone, and then you'll get a generic sense of this is value. But if you want to have transformative value, you need to have an idea which no one has thought of before, or you present as something that is not immediately apparent. And the great example, of course, is I think Steve Jobs, right, who says the customer doesn't know what they want. In many ways, that's true, because value creation is finding a solution to a problem that people don't know they have, but they actually do. So, and it's a very rare organization that actually does that. And even when you find that kind of an idea, how do you convince someone that they're thinking about their entire life in the wrong way? It requires, both intuitive mindset, but also to be a marketing genius. And that's why I really liked, I think, Vikas, your slides were phenomenal, because you've captured every aspect of the value chain, and you've alluded to that. There's always an X factor, which is the secret to being a successful company. And we talk about, operational excellence, process efficiency, driving that. Another great idea, and I was just reading about this company like, say, Bajaj Finance, right? No cost EMI, right? That's their tagline, right? And no cost to who? No cost to the customer. But the cost is there. You look at their net interest margins, they're 3x or 4x of the next person. So someone is paying interest, but it's a no-cost EMI. It's marketing genius. It's again, the person who goes and identifies, who sees that opportunity in the market, is the one who has to then also figure out how to harvest that reward. And in the engineering space, in the tech space, you do see that, but it's there in every aspect of every business.
Thank you, thank you. There's so many gems coming out every minute, isn't it? We're talking about a problem, and then we're talking about an idea which fits into the solution, and the people who have thought about the problem lifelong never knew that there was a solution, and then it is a value addition. Otherwise, it wasn't. Passing the same question to Mr. Abhishek, who has been into investing in a lot of startups and working with in an IT company for years with multinational clients. What kind of strategies do you see in innovation and value creation there too?
See, my view is that what is value today may not be value tomorrow, especially in terms of competitive advantage. Because as the world changes, people's expectation change, and what was unique yesterday becomes a best practice today. And it becomes a necessity tomorrow, right? So, and eventually it becomes something, if you don't give it, then there is a problem, right? So I think what I have seen in IT industry and high-tech industry is that the pace of innovation is drives value to a great extent because you need to keep adapting. You need to understand how people benefit from it. Second is in IT, what we also see is that there are lots of novel values, right? So something very new, people are excited about it today. So it's very easy for people to get deviated into running after the next shiny object and think that that is the value. Unfortunately, happens because of a massive amount of FOMO, which is part of the industry's culture, I would say. So we need to understand that how this particular value is going to be sustainable and what really matters. So I'll give you a very interesting anecdote of when we were rebranding our business and we started thinking very deeply about what value do we really bring on the table. We spoke to hundreds of customers and we said, it was COVID time, so we had all the time in life to do that. And when we spoke to a lot of people and we collected all the data and we started seeing it, we figured out that the most simplest thing is what people really value the most, which is, do you deliver the outcome we paid for? Right? Because we also understood that more than 30% IT projects fail. Fail miserably. And another 30% do not meet the objective set out for. So that was a very, very eye-opening moment. And we defined that, our value as a business would be we deliver. And, so just 2 words is more than enough for us to really make a client understand that this company understands what the real value lies in. Because other things will come and go. But what will stay and what people will again go back to again and again for referring back is, I think, key value here.
Thank you. Another gem, we deliver, that's the value. You really do not have to be so innovative and invest so much of it that you are not profitable while you are adding value, like our initial speaker started mentioning. And putting this question across to you and all others is, how do you really balance between value creation and the money that is making it sustainable and financially viable? Is there some amount of pressure that comes in? Is it easy?
I can add that from a startup mindset. Of course, it is not easy. But of course, there is a cost attached to the prioritization also you need to do. In the initial phase, there has to be a lot of investment. I have seen that in Zomato firsthand. I have seen that with ONDC when I was heading strategy for ONDC. So you have to clearly identify the value you are creating, the problem you are solving for the customer, and communicate that very sharply. And initially, you will have to bear that cost. Only when the customer understands and appreciates that value, the cash flow starts coming in. Right? Take example of Zomato for that matter. 10 years it took people to understand, change that habit. At least I never imagined back in 97, 98 that I would be ordering food online. For a middle class family, going to a restaurant was more like an occasion, while today it's almost an everyday affair. So value, cash flows will come in. It's a matter of time.
would you like to add something on when you look at it from the financial report part of it? Like Vikas was talking about 80% is subjective, the value part of it. So how do you really objective look at it and sign on that paper saying this is a value-driven organization? Or
So you see, that's pretty much extremes in terms of when we look at a balance sheet and we look at what contains in it, and there's profit and there is revenue and there is cost and there are assets and liabilities. But is the business just measured with those assets, liabilities and profit today? Or is it something beyond the balance sheet which a lot of people need to look into, the stakeholders need to look into? And that is where even the reporting has now advanced to say that, this is one part of your performance or the business performance. But what about the part where there is brand, there is business ethics, there is the social impact, there is your customer base, and how will you respond to a lot of things happening? Very profitable companies have gone down the drains, not so profitable companies have come up. So the financial parameter is not the only parameter to judge the business.
So let me add something, and again, this was a little bit triggered by one of the topics on innovation and driving value. Now, we always think that innovation and driving value is something that you also show to your customer, but that's not the case. Some of the most innovative thing happen in a company, and the customer doesn't know about it because it's innovative in how you change your internal process, how you recruit people, how you train people, how you define the metrics of how you assess whether your business is doing well or not. And those are things that is really the secret sauce of execution. And that's where really someone, assurance and audit, I think they have a tremendous role to play in helping customers, clients reach that value, because you have an entrepreneur, right? You have an idea, you see a market opportunity, and then you go to some people and you say that, okay, this is my big thing. How do I actually judge whether I'm reaching financial milestones that will make my idea a successful business? Because the two are completely different. And it takes work to go from an idea to a business. So if you work with professionals who kind of get what you're doing, then they actually innovate for you. And the innovation process is not a solitary one. It's essentially a team-driven one. And part of what makes an entrepreneur successful is figuring out who are the right people who are with him on that journey. Whether it's a CEO, whether it's a CFO, whether it's trusted advisors or consultants, every bit has to be fit in and chosen with what that person has and what that person doesn't have and needs others to bring in. So the big gap between an idea and a business model that has value creation at every step only if there is also a corresponding bit of innovation happening.
True. I have one line to add here. I think for the sustainability of the value creation that we do and the value proposition that we communicate externally, I think that is directly proportionate to the culture inside the company. So a lot of time we are talking about, okay, this is our value proposition, this is our differentiator, this is how we have competitive edge. But if fundamentally it is not supported by the internal culture, that value will not last. So for example, if I am saying that we are a very transparent company, let's say transparency is a key element for the kind of customers we want to serve, and internally we keep hiding things from each other in the organization, right? I think that value will not even be reflected outside because this is what people learn. I mean, as a people-based organization, for us and any people-based organization, it is extremely critical that what you are practicing internally will eventually go out.
True. So interesting, moving from strategies to people, the human capital. Yeah, and value is about hiring the right people, retaining them, doing and cashing on that human capital. Uh, a question back to my panel here is how important, you have said that it is, but what is that strategy or what is that connection that you need to develop with your people, that culture you need to build? Are there some strategies, some thoughts which you really look at that people should add value and not just be happy in fulfilling the KRAs, as we normally say, कि लोगों को एक goal sheet दे दो, KRA बता दो, उतना कर ले काफी है. But that doesn't really add value.
So it's very simple, really. Garbage in, garbage out, quality in, quality out. So what you get out of your people is what you put in, really. And I think for me, the single biggest thing that I can add is actually to spend time with the people who are important to the organization. And if I'm not doing that, then the organization suffers. If I'm not sitting with someone and, sounding out, it's not my strategy. If I'm empowering people in my organization, it's their strategy. What I'm doing is I'm acting as a sounding board. I'm trying to understand that. I'm trying to get the other person to think about scenarios in which it works, which it doesn't work. And that again culture is a very big part of that, because if you're someone who's just going in and, sitting in your office saying, okay, let the file come in, I'll read it and sign it, then that value is getting jammed, right? That's not how any successful visionary CEO or high performer would work, whatever be the level actually. So, and there's this big debate now that, should we go in to the office? Is hybrid going to work? And I completely agree with people like Jamie Dimon who have said that, using whatever crude language he has that's captured. But the fact is if you're not speaking to people, then you're not getting the best out of them, because you're not understanding and you can't do that really effectively in a virtual setting. You can't have a 10-minute Zoom with this person, a 5-minute Zoom with that person, and they tend to be structured and all of that. So this concept of knowledge clearinghouse, of a knowledge factory, of a knowledge workplace is essential to creating a high-performance organization, in my view. I could be wrong.
True. That's coming from you and with whatever HR experience we talk to various organizations. If you do not sow the seeds of leadership, if you yourself do not connect with people, some weed grows. And that is what you have to. अगर आप leadership के seed खुद नहीं बो रहे हैं तो कोई ना कोई तो leader बन ही जाएगा, and he'll influence. And whatever you will have a culture is of that person, not of you. And very rightly, if we could invest into people, get what garbage in, garbage out, or good in or good out, that's something what you put in. And that's very essential. Even at Omnifin, when we train people and when we get them to hire, that's one of the important part. Pre-trained people would add value to the organization. Otherwise, when you get them, induct them, spend time, and in a couple of months they just go away, you are stuck, and that's not value. And that's equally important. True. So human capital is one aspect where we were looking at. Are there more aspects to it, like the P's which Vikas was talking about? Do you think there is one more or two more aspects which you would like to bring in, like in process, with serving IT clients across the world and yourself looking at these things, which you very rightly said, something which is a value today, tomorrow may not be a value. So how do you really bring in the value in the process, which really is sustainable further?
So I think, as I said that, what is value today may not be value tomorrow, and it's very evident right now, because we used to say execution is the key. Right? So earlier we were in a concept when we said information is the arbitrage, then knowledge became the arbitrage. Then said कि knowledge होने से भी क्या होगा? Execute करो. Execution became the arbitrage. But I think as we move ahead in an AI-centric world, even execution won't remain the arbitrage, because execution also can become standardized across organizations, across people, because they are empowered with tools which is actually working on their behalf. So now what is the next frontier of value creation? I think the next frontier of value creation is empathy, understanding of problem, understanding how that problem sits in the context for the particular person who is supposed to benefit from it, and then measuring the outcome and see if this is the outcome they really wanted. I know this sounds very hazy because we have been a society who have been producing, who have been executing for years to create value. But shifting from there to getting into a situation where we are saying context and understanding of the problem and choosing the best solution out of the 5 solutions that AI throws at you in that given context, this becomes the biggest value creation for tomorrow. I don't think execution or pure building things would remain a big differentiator in years to come. That is my personal view.
Thank you. When we talk about value creation, does brand value somewhere surface in your audit or in your view that कि हाँ इसको भी हम एक factor पकड़ के चल सकते हैं?
It's a very pointed question. You're talking about brand value. But I think again in today's day and time, as to when we get back to your first question, that why were you willing to pay 2x, or why were you willing to kind of shell that extra piece of money out? So most brands today have a very key common factor, that is the building of trust. So, and the trust for different people mean different things. Trust may mean that, yes, if I am buying a product of this particular organization, I am assured of quality. Trust for somebody else means that, if I am buying this product, I will have a backup mechanism of somebody attending to me if something goes wrong. So it kind of manifests itself, but I think, there may be a lot of aspects that creates a brand value, but when I think the first thing that comes to my mind is trust.
Interesting, yeah. So brand value is related to trust, and if I trust an organization, it's a value that I can charge back. Yeah, coming to that point of उतना भी मत charge करिए कि लोगों को लगे ज़्यादा कर रहे हो. Have something to add on to this? Yeah. So moving from one online genius to another, sitting side who has been, I read on your website, you did something very recently about fixing an online leakage in a prominent power plant in India. And I saw it on your LinkedIn post.
So we are, as far as our customers are concerned, proudly offline, right?
I know.
By proudly offline, we mean that we need to respond to
Real
emergencies in real time with real people, real equipment, and hopefully give real results.
Yeah.
So what we do, one of the things which we do, which we actually pioneered in India some 35 years ago, is if you have an industrial plant, refinery, power plant, steel plant, there's always corrosion, there's always high pressure, high temperature, and when there's corrosion, eventually there'll be a hole or leakage that emerges, and then what do you do with that? You can either let it leak and spew whatever is coming. If it's steam, at least it's just water. But even if it's steam, you're losing energy because you're generating that steam and not doing anything with it. So typically people would, let it go till they got a shutdown, and then they replace that section or do some repair there. So what we do is we say that, we'll come in, let your plant run. We have a proprietary process using technology of sealants, engineering, and we'll seal that for you. Now, where is the innovation in that? There is process innovation and all of that. But realistically, the person who we are most dependent on is the actual guy in the field. And he needs to be, again, trained. He needs to have courage that his training will prevent him from getting injured. and he needs to have some great sense, that the brand of who he's working for is designed and engineered the whole thing, because the guy in the field, he's not the engineer who's designed it, he's not the chemist who's done the sealant. He's a guy who's at the mercy of the elements if the whole thing fails, and people can die, right? So that level of trust to build on that, and that brand is there in part of your cultural DNA, your organizational DNA. And it's something your customers appreciate, but it's something your own employees also have to appreciate, that, if my company is behind this idea, then it's going to work.
True.
And it's an extreme example, but it can be, if a salesman is selling a product, right, and it's a dud product, then who's the guy facing the problems with the customer? So it's there at every stage of an organization. If a CFO is guaranteeing some figures, and there's a problem, and there's, audit observation is relatively mild, but there's statutory authorities that can cause something. So he needs to have confidence that what is coming from the field is actually accurate, that this thing is being sold is actually being sold. And, so this trust in building a brand is much about an internal exercise as an external exercise.
So wonderful. When we talk about trust, we talk about many brands, especially in India. One of the brands which I connect to is Tata's. And it's just not about ensuring that your product is really consistent and has high quality. It's also about how you deal with your people, that they see you as a trusted employer, that you remove the risks and ensure that they are cared for, other than just the customer. We'll just get some views about participants, and I'll ask Aditya to pose up that question which he has prepared for our guests here to participate as well, and which we will discuss now on the panel too. And then we'll come towards the final few questions that I've received from the guests here. And will it go on the screen right now? 3, 2, 1. And the first question is about KPIs. We are going to talk about the key performance indicators on various ways when we really look at value creation. Let's see if technology gives us the yes, it does. So here you have a question: which key performance indicators is the most important to measure value created by an organization? My guests, you can scan that QR code, or you could type menti.com and use the code 55130283, and your responses would come over here. For others on the panel, we would listen to them as well, and आप जैसे ये QR code scan करेंगे, if that is difficult, we can pass a QR code on the table as well for you to scan. And you have 4 options. What do you think is the most important? Is it revenue growth? Is it customer acquisition? Is it return on investment? Wow. That's a technology savvy audience. Thank you. Quick responses coming in. And my question to the panelists is, now that we will not be influencing who have already voted, what are your views about this key performance indicators? रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ को छोड़ ही दिया है लोगों ने. क्या बात कर रहे हो? सच्ची? Yeah?
So as a true auditor, I will say it's judgmental. And so every organization goes through life cycle process. So at some point of time, as you said, that Zomato, where customers or creating a platform was important at a certain point of time, then creating, again, a customer acquisition or retention, having growth in that way, maybe it's a brownfield growth, greenfield growth, having revenue growth. But at the end, it really boils down to how much of stakeholder value you've created, after a certain point of time. Now, the stakeholders could be the shareholders, the stakeholders could be the banks who have
Banks,
lent
yeah.
you, stakeholders could be the regulator, as if you are, functioning in an environment where you need to respond to the regulators. It could be anybody.
Wonderful. So based on different aspects where the organization is, these factors would come into. But the guests' liking is towards customer acquisition and retention, which could lead to revenue growth. I believe that's the cause and effect thing that you're talking about, the lag and the lead factor. Let's go to one more question. Shall we go to the next? And this question talks about prioritizing investment in initiatives to drive value. Is it based on ROI? Is it based on strategic alignment with business objectives, by customer needs and feedback, or by competitive landscape and market trends? Where do you think more value addition should be done? The initiatives to drive value should be. Which of these four? I believe this is the first time the panelists are getting influenced by what the guests are putting in as answers. This is really a sadhu sabha, I believe. पैसे की बात ही नहीं कर रहे सब, रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट पे भी कम है, पिछली बार रेवेन्यू पे भी कम थे. या awesome. एस्पिरेशनल. हाँ, वो तो इफेक्ट है, वो तो आ ही जाता है. हाँ, देने वाला ऊपर वाला है. I don't know. Shiv, your views? In your organization, where would you prioritize if it were that way?
See, in my own organization, I would follow the masses here, right? The thinking masses, because this is an erudite audience. But to be honest, my own thinking is that depending on where the company is and how it's structured, it may not be appropriate to just look at strategic alignment with business objectives. I mean, if you're, say, a listed company, then you have to kind of look at everything. You have to have a process. You got to have bureaucracy and possibly all of that. And you have to accommodative views. If you're a entrepreneur or individual-driven company, then this answer is very clear to me, and it's the right answer. Because if your strategic objective is not to maximize ROI, there's some reasons, because you have a social goal in mind. You have maximize ROI maybe means I have to discharge all my waste oil in the gutter, but okay, I'm investing, I'll process it.
Sure.
So I think, and the other thing is that when you have a long-term view, I think you would also look at more about strategic alignment and business objectives, because the customer, what do they know in any way?
Yeah. We're talking about IPO. I also had a question for Abhishek. You are getting into an IPO, I believe, very soon. And what challenges do you see there about value addition? Will something change once you get listed?
No, I don't think it changes a lot, of course. We are anyways very transparent as a business. So that transparency has always been there. We just have to extend it a little bit more. I think we become a little bit more accountable, which is very useful, because so that the senior management doesn't lays off. And I think IT is a business of innovation. So we have to keep doing that. The experiments have to continue to happen. And I think we have to take a long-term view, because in today's world, the way things are volatile and in short-term, anything which is short-term, I think is non-feasible for us. So we always had a long-term view. As a business, we always thought in decades rather than years. So we'll continue to do so. Because for us, I know different companies have different objectives. We are trying to build the most sustainable digital company in the world. For us, size definitely matters. Growth rate also matters. But I think sustainability matters number one. And because that is how we can create sustainable value for clients.
Your company has been there since 1997, I believe.
Yeah, we are 27 years, and I think we are possibly one of the oldest digital companies in the city.
A good round of
made in the
applause for
country.
this gentleman, yeah, to build a sustainable company which is into it. Shiv, one thing which I did when my son was here long, long back was going to Nico Parks. Yeah. And one of the questions which comes to me is, what is that value that a world-class theme park would bring in to the customers apart from entertainment? Or what else do people look into it when you really see? Or how do you really build value into it?
Value is, I think, when we had Nico Park, one of the forefront ideas of how we would judge value of the project is that would it remain accessible. Okay, so it's not necessary that you know people are going to be maximizing, or we are not going to be extracting every last bit of their willingness to pay. So accessibility meant having as wide an audience as possible. It's also it was conceived as a project, with the government. The government still has a very, very large, substantial stake in the project. So when you think about value there, so that's one of the aspects, and that's why I like this idea of strategic alignment with business objectives. The second thing is actually to have an outlet where people can have thrill rides, which I think that is still the only place, and it's perhaps an area which we're looking to do more investments in. And the last thing is, so to make it from the specific to the generalized. So value generation would involve, keeping things accessible. It would be about updating yourself and upgrading yourself, just like a tech company. New things come. So to generate value, you really should be a part of that. And the third thing is, I would say, to keep it an appealing place to visit, right?
Yeah,
Because
something.
the tendency is that you start out with ideas, then over time,
Ideas get.
maintenance falls off, or even the basic things, maintenance falls off. You see dirt, paint fading, and this is a tough climatic environment. You see the smartest of buildings, even if it's like a spanking new five-star hotel, you look at it closely, you'll see wet spots in your room sometimes.
Sure.
You'll see dirt. So that also, is part of the concept of what we want to deliver as a value.
Sure. I loved your point about affordability for people. And again, what he was talking about was about something which was value addition and idea then is not now. And about expanding. Do you have some plans on expanding as well to make this
Yeah, so
accessible
we are
across the country?
planning a couple of new attractions, which is all I can say, since Abhishek is going for an IPO, so Nico Park is a listed entity, so I can't say too much. And very soon, Abhishek, you won't be able to say too much also, or if you say it, it'll be in kind of hushed voices. So yeah, so we have every year we do have something new, big or small, and we're actually looking to increase what we spend, on bringing in new things. So the industry average is typically you want to spend, somewhere between 7 to 10% of revenue in capex and upgrades.
Wow.
So it is
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
that really tells us that it would be good quality work even then as an infrastructure when we are really looking at it. Thank you. How many audit firms are here, auditors in this room? Can I have a raise of hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quite a few, yeah. Uh, Seema, I would like to hear from you if there's a mid-size auditor in terms of creating value for the organization where they're auditing, with whatever resources they have. What all can they do?
Uh, like as Abhishek ji said, what was value yesterday is not value today, may not be value tomorrow. So I think auditor will need to be agile. Okay, so any mid-sized firm, you see what are the services which were rendered 25 years ago versus today are very, very different. The needs of the clients are very different. We need to be confident that we are armed with a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge needs to get channelized in the right manner. A lot of organizations which can be our clients are now wanting to concentrate on their core competencies. So, management, processes, people, where it's not a people-centric organization. So these are somewhere on the periphery, but they are important or as important to the organization other than their core competency. So these are the places where we can harness in terms of advising them on regulatory matters, in terms of advising them on skill set development, people training. There are a whole lot of areas. I've just, now we don't even talk of digital transformation as something which is, separate. It's just there. I mean, so I feel that, the tagline that the future is now, the future is here. So we shouldn't even have an iota of doubt that, there are, things will get taken over by, computer-aided techniques. Audit is going to be a thing of the past, because they'll all be there, but just be there in a different avatar. And the whole thing is that we will need to keep up with these changes and be those advisors who can advise these changes to the clients.
Awesome. Auditors as advisors. Yeah. And especially if they have an experience across various organizations, they can bring in the best practices which even the competition is doing or some other people are doing across without compromising on the integrity part of it. Okay, so before I get into a rapid fire round with my panelists here from the guests, any questions, any thoughts that you would wish to share? There we have some raise of hands. Someone please carry some mics. And let's hear.
Is this audible? Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry, I probably missed, the first part of it. I'm Brishti. I represent Nomura Research Institute. So my question, this is out of my little experience, and while I'm also gathering more, while we talk about, value creation, the biggest challenge, what's lying ahead of us, right? It's not value creation internally, but we have to look at your downstream and your upstream stakeholders. There are times companies are losing clients, customers, because that value creation we are not kind of looking at while we're looking at our suppliers or whoever we are taking our probably the raw materials and all. And this is very challenging for organizations which are not very large, mid-sized organization. We cannot have a different separate governance department. We talk about, nowadays a GRI reporting, which has become very mandate for multinational companies. So where do we, I just want some inputs, how do we balance this, while we want to scale up, while we want to retain, clients, customers and all, how do we, make sure we do some kind of a value creation, across the stream? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Open to the first come first basis. Who goes? Want to try?
So if I understand your question right, it's about how a small business can create value in a competitive market landscape where large players are already there
and lot of levers to control.
Lot of levers to control.
Auditing my third-party vendors, right? Those kind of things, because the cost is involved, the time is involved. We want to optimize, our delivery within the organization, or we want to kind of look at those.
So I think specialization plays a big role for small business, and a lot of times people try to serve every kind of business. They try to give every kind of service. I think a smaller business can highly specialize in a vertical and get deeper knowledge, extreme capabilities in that area, and I think that works. I mean, there are boutique firms who do amazing work, and I have at least seen hundreds and thousands of business owners who vouch by working with a boutique firm rather than a very large company, because they get personal attention, they get specialized knowledge, and then they get a very in-depth understanding of the subject. So I think specialization would be the key here.
Just to add to that in maybe more colorful language, is you need to figure out what you do well and also figure out what you do badly, because anything you do well, the cost of that is what you do badly. And if you're going to choose to play in a segment, make sure you're the best in that segment, but make sure everyone knows that, okay, you're the best in this segment as a choice because you're not going to be good in that segment. So market segmentation is extremely critical. And, the cost of being great as opposed to just being good in one area is essentially being terrible instead of adequate in another.
Wow, two important things that came up. Thank you. Any other contributions? Okay, so I'll move on to the rapid fire then, and the rapid fire would be with names onto you, and it's not the same question for all. Yep. And let's see. So keep your mics handy, and I'll invite. We'll get hampers. Yeah. Because we have hampers, right? No, not with Karan. Okay. So this is for Abhishek. Abhishek, we know your FOMO. We read it online as well. And the question is, talent or technology? What do you fear more?
Technology.
टैलेंट चला गया तो चलता है, उसका फोमो
चला
नहीं
जाने की बात नहीं कर रहे थे आप.
हाँ, किससे डर ज्यादा लगता है?
खोने का.
हाँ,
टैलेंट ही है. टेक्नोलॉजी कहाँ खोएगी?
टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं खोती है. वंडरफुल. दूसरा, रुकिए, सेंट जेवियर्स या यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ बैथ, राइट? कौन सा ज्यादा करीब है दिल के?
None. I hardly attended college.
ये सही है. हाँ. What's the single most important factor in scaling up a technology company sustainably in one sentence? One thing.
Having pessimism and optimism in the right places.
Okay. And a startup in your industry that you're keeping an eye on?
Startup in my industry.
हाँ, जिस पे बहुत नजर है, या any other industry where you are.
OpenAI.
बढ़िया. Thank you, Abhishek. From Abhishek to give him a good round of applause. From Abhishek to Anjani. 3 important leadership traits, rank them in an order. 1 is strategic vision, 2nd is adaptability, 3rd is people first. Rank them in your ways.
Adaptability, people first, and strategic vision.
Wow. Adaptability, people first, and then strategic vision. One more. Key growth drivers in your hygiene care sector. Innovation, cost efficiency, branding.
Cost efficiency. Has to be cost efficiency.
Cost efficiency.
It's more about penetrating the underpenetrated market.
Thank you. Give him a good round of applause, please. Shiv. The same question. Harvard or Princeton?
It's easy. The affinity is I would say more Princeton. Affinity is more Princeton, yeah.
कुछ याद है वहाँ की यादें? बहुत.
वहाँ मार ज़्यादा पड़ता था. So the imprinting is more.
And adoption of ESG, that is environmental social governance norms,
Yeah.
Is it a cost or an investment?
So I thought it was a cost, but after starting the journey, you realize it's an investment.
And it creates a lot of value?
It creates a harvestable value. I think how much you actually harvest is a choice.
So you have to milk it.
Yeah.
It doesn't give it.
Yeah,
on
nothing.
its own,
No value is out there. The era of low-hanging fruit is gone.
Sure. Thank you. Seema. What's more valuable, winning a client or retaining a client?
Retaining a client.
In all circumstances?
Well, 2 years hence is auditor rotation, so my answer then would be different.
Okay, if you could change one thing about the audit industry, what would it be?
I think that is the fear. We need to go towards audit with the right mindset, not audit because regulator pakdega, client fees nahi dega, deadline meet nahi karenge, to, somebody. So you need to be an auditor at heart. You need to do best at what you are doing with, and you need to have the right knowledge.
Last question. Who creates more value-driven organization? Entrepreneur-driven organization or a multinational company?
Entrepreneur.
Thank you. That's Seema for us. Give them a good round of applause. I hope when you started your journey today morning, each one of you, you paid some cost to be here. Yes, no, maybe? Your time is an investment. And I hope this panel brought in some value to what cost you have paid for the investment that you have made. I have got immense value from this discussion. I hope you have got too. Thank you, each one of you, for being here, and thank you, panel, for being here. It was a really value addition discussion for me to be here. Thank you.